You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the Meta. The Meta controls everything. The Meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.
And we're live. So
Yes.
Welcome everybody to part 2 of our year in review 2018 episode. We did this last week, and there was just too much shit happened in 2018. I stole this joke, and I'm going to continue to misappropriate it. 2018 was the longest decade that we've had in a long while, and that held true for EVE Online as well. So once again, we have K Color joining us as a guest on part 2, and I'm happy to welcome Killa B, who is joining us as well. We may get Villy added on later on in the show, depending on how these fights that are happening are going down. There's a lot of shit exploding today. The fight is over. Okay, that's excellent.
Yep, they died.
And yeah, so Ronnie Hugo, thank you very much. 14 months.
Yes.
And yeah, wow. Here we are.
Yeah, so to jump back in, today we're gonna go over 3 parts. We're gonna have 3 different things. No word like that. Docking your tight. Actually, we thought about putting it on there, but as like biggest comment, but we didn't get to that. Anyways, we're gonna finish up the year. We left off with August. August, of course, as we know, was the X-Force 7 fight, so that's one of the biggest moments in 2018. So we'll get to that here in a moment. We're also gonna do the 2018 Meta Show Awards, and we polled a lot of different people. I think we got like 350 responses. It was a tiered polling system, so you had to put like your first choice, your second choice, your third choice. And then we tabulated all the numbers and got the number ones. And then we also are going to go over 2018 by the numbers. And some of you might be blown away just how many things exploded in the year 2018. So
we are
that's
getting
where we're at.
A whole pile of subs and resubs. I want to thank all of you guys. Surround Blix, Drusus Nero, Dionix, and Canadian, and we've got a couple others I think that I've missed from higher up.
Woo, 42 months.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. We
Yeah,
are seeing some big numbers here.
Yeah, but so before we jump into all this, how's it going? How's it going, Killa B?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty okay. Pretty happy Christmas and New Year's are over. It's always a mixture of lots of alcohol and lots of food, and I don't know. I'm just happy that the everyday life is coming back now.
I couldn't agree more. I find that like the week after holidays is more of a reasserting old patterns, and also going, Jesus Christ, did I really manage to gain 5 pounds in like a week and a half of holiday? A return to old habits, and then wondering about your beach body, whatever it is in January.
See, mine was the opposite. The holidays was not stressful at all, and today starts the week of stress because I began wedding planning.
Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything about that. K Color, how you doing today?
What's a beach?
I keep hearing about them. I was exposed to beaches occasionally by my ex-wife, and thankfully that hasn't been an issue for me. But I hear you're supposed to worry about your beach body when you weigh yourself. So I'm just trying to fit in. Conformity is very important for me.
Yeah, about that. So let's jump in because I want to talk about EVE. And August, we left off with July. July ended. It was over. Boom. We thought, okay,
to bring people up to speed, we were just talking about, I believe, last time we had finished analyzing UALX, right? That was like the big fight in July,
we finished
right?
UALX, and then we finished talking about the start of the war in the north, which was we had poked Keep Stars, and because of Sino jammers, there was no way to really get our supers in. We had overwhelming Titan and super numbers thanks to PL venturing south and staying south. NC just didn't have the numbers alone. They tried. Oh my god, did they try. That's why great it's Killer Bees here to talk about his side. But then August shows up. And August happened in a unique way because we noticed that X47 had a Keep Star that could be assaulted with no Sino Jammer for 2 weeks. So we had 2 weeks to hit the thing before they could Sino Jam that one and block off the Keep Stars. We weren't making any progress on inhibs. So we couldn't snap an inhib, which meant we couldn't snap into killing keep stars, I believe.
Why don't we just get a broad overview from Killa B about his perspective on this entire phase of the campaign. We're also getting some questions about can we cover the fight that just we will be getting
we'll
to
talk
that.
about it.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. We are not going to miss out on the
We're
news.
not 2019 yet. Hold on.
Killa B, can you give us, because the thing is that
latest
this phase of the
rage-
war that we're about to go into, there's a couple of fights in X47 that are critical. Killa B gets a new nickname. Things kind of go down a downward spiral very rapidly. And it all kind of blurs together because this campaign, once it kicks off and there's blood in the water, a lot of Keepstars die really fast. So just to provide an overview from your perspective of what happened, how would you describe the sort of August through September phase of 2018, Killa B?
Yeah, so basically you guys found the X47 Keepstar, you hit it. The Keepstar fights itself were, I always say now, looking back at it, I think the first fight was okay. The ammo timer, I think it was, yeah. The ammo timer, I thought was reasonably enjoyable. The structure timer was a mistake from my part to decide to go in there. I think even though it would have been a big blow to morale, I think it would have been better to just like sit that one out, because we were just not gonna win that. I don't think you guys had way better coordination, and you were way better set up than we were. The first fight was really interesting in terms of some of the things I wanted to test ever since the new modules and everything were introduced. There was never really a BTEC hour sort of fight ever since all the new DDs, new guns, and all that stuff, right? Between two equally sized entities prior to UALX, I guess, and then X47. And I was gonna try some new stuff, like for example the Hull Energizers on Titans. I really hope that we could basically negate some DD volleys with the Hull Energizers, and that didn't work out at all. Probably due to tie-dye funkiness and people not pressing the button at the right time, which in all fairness is very hard to do in tie-dye. But yeah, you guys did a pretty damn good job at those timers. The first one, I think, was, like I said, was fair and quite even. I mean, you ended up towards the USTZ, you guys ended up reinforcing way better than we did. Test, and especially you guys as well, have a pretty strong US time zone, and we don't, or we didn't at the time. Our USTZ's finally getting stronger, but yeah, we didn't have a very strong time zone. So as our Euros logged off because they're normies, and they have jobs and everything like that. Basically, there were just not enough reinforcements coming in on our end, and you guys basically held your numbers stable through the entire fight. It was like maybe even more people jumping, and I don't have the exact numbers in my head now. But yeah, so basically towards the end of the fight, things started shifting in your favor quite rapidly, and you guys ended up killing more Titans than we killed. While we were trading pretty good at the start of the fight, we started to trade very miserably towards the end of it. We managed to snag some kills in your midpoint, which ended up making the battle report look good. But, battle reports are only part of the picture. I guess they make you feel good. But yeah, definitely big win for you guys. And then after that, like I said, I think everybody was kind of burned out from Capital Brawling after that for a little bit. And what happened after X47 was a very fun period in the Northern War, at least in my books, because without having any kind of agreement, everybody kind of stopped using caps, and we just had subcap brawls for a while. And those were pretty fun because there wasn't a lot of tie-dye, and it wasn't as blobby and as laggy and as bad as X47 was. Everybody was kind of enjoying the subcap fights, and that was a very fun period.
Now, just to be clear, during this period, once there was a downshift to mostly subcapital battles after X47, this was also when, I think, what was the total? Was it 9 keep stars by the time that we were done with it?
Yeah. When you started, that was doing basically most of the fights over the keep star system iHubs happened just with subcaps. There was barely any caps involved on any side. And everybody was just bringing as many subcaps as they could, and we were fighting over those iHubs. And in the Keepstar systems, you guys ended up killing most of the iHubs pretty fast, and then I think you killed the DO6 one when I was at the CSM Summit along with some other people.
Yep.
And then after that, there were some people that still wanted to fight back, but I told them pretty much straight up, without the iHubs and the Cynojammers being up, there's no point trying to defend the keep. So we're not going to have an X47 sort of engagement over every single one of these keep stars. So we kind of just, let you guys mop them up.
Yeah, so the timeline here, to go back just a fraction of a week, at the end of July, we killed 2 low-sec keep stars, one from Shadow Cartel, then a day later, the Waffles keep star in Kanaka. That happened because, as Killaby pointed out, we couldn't break the iHubs, so we pulled back and said, okay, well, let's get some keep star kills. That was strictly subcaps on the Waffle one, and there were some caps on the Shadow Cartel one, but none enemy caps showed up to really defend those final timers. And then going into X47 happens August 8th, and then there's a lull in the action for a month where no keep stars were reinforced or hit or died. Just subcap fights.
When did the Aunanen and Mila
So
keep
July
star
27th, July 28th. Were those two.
So like in this period, I guess it was just before X47.
Right, and then then X47 happens August 8th.
Because we didn't talk about the Diplo stuff, because that was actually kind of a big deal at the time. We reinforced the Aunanen Keepstar, which was a free port, nominally a free port. It was part of the old New Eden Trading Company network, which was put up by Pandemic Legion, and sort of this joint venture with PL and Suis and all that crew to have a totally neutral thing that is perfectly fine and nobody should hit it. So, of course, we saw that was bullshit, and we hit that. But this had been transferred to Matterall, at some point before we had sieged the thing, and he did something sensible and cut a deal basically for both of those keep stars to be relocated. Now, one of them was successfully relocated. That was Aunanen. That was the one that we helped secure, and the one that Pfeiffer and his crew said that they totally had fine and there was nothing to worry about. That would be the Mila Keepstar. That one ended up getting stolen because they didn't rely on Goonstorm security, I guess. I think it was actually I think it was a coalition op for the entire Imperium for the first one, actually. So
the first one we secured it for sure, and the second one it was Matterall and friends tried to secure it, and they didn't think anyone would mess with it, and it got stolen. And that was right on the doorstep of Geminate.
It's Tupac secured.
So I guess then.
So we got
there's this period of just falling. So that was July into August. August we have X47 and the aftermath.
And then after there's a break, and there's a nice break all the way up to September. September we have the Fraternity Keepstar and 46 DP Falls. That was their staging. It died to Test and us. We took subcaps back down. That was around the time when PL just given up in the south. Skill You and friends decided to pull on back, go up back towards home, and it was just kind of fraternity on their own. After that, the DW...
That was part of X47, though, is for the final timer of X47, PL pulled all their stuff back up north, so it was even more relevant. We also got to introduce the whole jump Hictors with the supers with points fit.
Can you explain how that... K-Color, could you explain how that was a factor in these fights?
So basically what was happening, and it has now been, fixed or patched or whatever you want to call it, but if you DD volleyed something or you DD'd something and it eventually died, your weapons timer would go away, even if your Doomsday timer was still cycling. So this was allowing NC fleets to basically DD volley something and then wait a minute and tether. So what we ended up having to do is we have to point them. Hictors are really easy to kill with that many supers and titans around them. So what we did instead was we had to get enough points from our super capitals, which are basically just massive Hictors at this point, to keep them from being able to tether. Because the only way to prevent the tether is to have enough points to stop them from jumping or warping.
And what was insane about that, and I comment on Asher on taking this insane move, is he basically stuck all of our armor supers at 0 on a Keepstar. they could have infinitely put Dictors out there and Hectors and bubbled and bubbled and bubbled, because the rest of us were at 300 kilometers right at the edge of range, because that's where you fight a Keepstar from. So to keep all those supers alive, I think we eventually lost 22 super carriers, was the final number, from that jump in. But they could have been even more bloody.
Rifter. I mean, that was basically what
Yeah.
has come from that, from like Goonswarm 2018. Our experience is, we started out with tackling and Rifters, and now we're just using super.
Yeah, but what's great about it is just the scariness of the DD with the tether. One of the key things we learned in that fight is if you didn't DD volley the target, just like B-R, and this is something we had to pay attention to, if it didn't get DD volleyed off, it didn't die. Reps were too strong. Tether was really strong. If, there was a couple of Titans we DD'd at that we just barely missed killing them, and then they tethered up. And when they tether up, they become invulnerable. You can't shoot them. So that was a big deal.
I wanna sort of hand things over to Killa B again here, because it is, as somebody has pointed out here in chat, it is tough for us to be going over fights that were lost. Some commentators don't have the balls to do it. So instead, I'd like to ask a more open-ended question to Killa B, which is, in the aftermath of the really major fights in X47, and you did see a period of people using primarily subcaps or things like that, but it's now been, almost 5 months or whatever since all this went down, 5-6 months. Were there any major changes that you've seen in the game as a whole, like any major turning points? Are things different now after the fights in X47, or were they just, hey, look, some Titans blew up? Like, what's your perspective? Has there been a broader impact on EVE strategically, tactically, in terms of the metagame that you have seen from your position?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of strategic thinking, especially parts of the northern leadership, there was a very strong force within the north that was always, saying, one of the main arguments, because I've been trying to do content with NC Dot that would burn some bridges that we have. I was always told, we can't do that, because then if goons come north, they won't be allies anymore. And the thing about that is, now we know that even if we pull all those people together and put up a stand, clearly it still was not enough, which was really good for me in the long run, so to say, because that kind of reinforces my argument. Whenever now I have a discussion with someone, hey, can we just go over, and fuck with these guys? And they're like, but then they're gonna hate us. Like, yeah, but what kind of good did they do us, right? Like, whatever. Let's just have fun. How about that? And also, X47 definitely opened some eyes, and kind of, some people in the north were really slow realizing how important mining and industry is. Unfortunately, it took them like 2 years to realize that, and you guys are way ahead in that now. But at least they realize it now, and we can finally start making, or we actually already started making changes towards, at least getting an industry and shit like that built up. Which is good. I personally, I would have liked those changes to happen way earlier, but it's very hard to teach an old dog a new trick.
I'm curious, just as a follow-up on that. We have, from the Imperium perspective, seen what we've been calling a lot of infighting between former allies on sort of the hostile coalition side. Would you say that it is less a matter of infighting and more a matter of everybody just decided that they might as well shoot each other because they can't stop the Imperium working with Legacy anyway? Like, is that why you're seeing so much internecine conflict between Guardians of the Galaxy and their former allies?
I really don't know what's happening with Horde, and like the whole GOTG and Horde mess I was mostly inactive for. I was mostly playing other games, so I can't really comment on that because I really don't know what happened down between those two. But in terms of infighting, I've as an example, like CO2 for example, I've never really enjoyed working with CO2, right? But basically, by the time I came back from my break I had earlier this year when I started my new job, and I was kind of just focusing on that instead of EVE, and I got back once I kind of got used to the job, and I was basically, oh, by the way, CO2 are back, and they live in Vale now, or they live in fucking Fade now, Fade now, whatever, it was at the time. I was like, oh, okay, I guess. They were fielding really good numbers at the time too. They were putting like 250 people in fleet, but then, as the pressure started ramping up, they just turned into this they just turned into CO2 basically. And yeah, those were one of the people. I personally like Sword. I was just very disappointed with the performance of some of his FCs during the whole Northern incursion of you guys.
Yeah.
So
That's fair.
So here we go.
To be fair, they had been fighting the SIG that doesn't exist for probably
Yeah, but
a
here's the
year
thing,
before
right?
that.
If they've been fighting for such a long time, you would expect their FCs to have some sort of experience fighting, and that was just non-existent in my opinion.
Well,
Like some of the FCs I had to work with, I was being told, by the way, this FC is quite new. This is like his third fleet, and then if you work with 15 different FCs, right, and they all make that one mistake for their personal first time, you still end up losing 15 times because somebody fucked up. And that's just really annoying. I would have liked to work with someone consistent there that I know I can rely on, and that was just not really the case.
yeah, and that's a thing, Kid Killer, you point out, is they were fighting so long against Goons that a lot of their FC group straight up quit. You had one of the guys, or they either quit or were demoted so hard by Sort that they weren't allowed to FC any fleets. So one big example of a guy that rage quit and then deleted his character was Massadeth, or not Mass, was it Massadeth? From MOA.
Well, there was also Erebus Silent
Erebus
Kill.
Silent Kill, that's the one, not Massadeth, Erebus Silent Kill. Where he just deleted his character, like he was out Tengu ratting to try and make some ISK because he had lost so many fights recently, and then PL killed his Tengu ratter, and when he complained to Sword told him to go fuck himself. So he deleted his character and quit. I mean, when you have that kind of a problem in-house, it's hard to keep your FCs the same. So I couldn't imagine what Killer B had to go through trying to get people to be consistent and help. But moving here, so we had the subcat fights, and we had a lot of them. They were all the way up until October. October rolls around, and at that point, everyone's just kind of like, or not October, I am so sorry, September. I skipped the whole month. September rolls around, and people are just kind of like, what the fuck? We realized that we could break iHubs at this point. Thanks to some downtime fighting, Australian fighting, time zone fighting, we managed to break the iHub belonging to the DW Keepstar. Once that iHub was snapped, that Keepstar fell. There was very little resistance when it died. Then, a short time after that, 6 days later, the Teniferous Blades of Grass Keepstar fell to test. That was the first Keepstar to die in several months. They had less than 100 people on it. Only had 99 people on that kill mill.
So many dead Titans this year.
Oh, we're
so
gonna
many
get to
dead
that.
Keepstars. I mean, it's just...
Then the day later, 4 Keepstars died. It was the first time that 4 Keepstars died while combat was occurring, and we'll get why I point that to a very specific fact. A Darkness Keepstar died at X7 at 9:30 Eve, followed by the NC Keepstar DO6, then 3V8 and C4C, the 2 remaining CO2 Keepstars, later that afternoon. And what was a big deal about this is that 2 of the Keepstar died within 10 minutes of each other in 2 separate systems that could have easily been dragged out and fought over. At that point, it just kind of, the war was ending.
It was over. Like, the reality was that after the major Titan losses, the repeated fights in X47, this was... I don't really blame the bad guys for that, because why throw good money after bad? Like, the biggest issues that were exposed, I think, from like a structural perspective, didn't really get addressed, which was a lot of the chain of command stuff. And so at that point, it was sort of every man for themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that wrapped up September. The war ends. When the war ends, these are the numbers at the end of the war. 54 Fortizars were killed. 8 flipped and destroyed by the hostiles themselves. So like we stole them, and then they got killed by Sort anyway.
And that 54, that's not counting the Fortizars.
Oh, we're getting to there. Faction Fortizars. Okay. 9 faction Fortizars were killed. 1 was stolen. 3 destroyed by hostiles. Those were ones that we stole, and then they proceeded to kill. 93 PI was most famous, and then we had 40 transferred to us. Tatara 6, Azabel 6 with 1 stolen. 3 Sotios, 84 Athenors with 9 stolen and then killed by hostiles, and a bunch of Ashtauses and Retaros. 10 Keepstars died, 1 of which was stolen. 2 were relocated. and then we have the relocated, and that's a rough estimation of the entire war right there. Super capital counts, so the numbers in the war. 60 Titans were destroyed by Imperium forces and tests on Legacy. 34 were lost. And then super carriers, 7 were destroyed by Imperium and Legacy forces, and 22 were lost. So that's the numbers right there.
That's
just in a couple of months.
Hardware.
Yes.
So, bringing us through this, then, at which point was it October that we ended up doing the deal, or was that still in September?
End of September, early October, the deal's made. War ends.
The deal for people who are just tuning in is the treaty that was made between Imperial Legacy forces and Guardians of the Galaxy and or Deadco or what the collection of anti-goon forces we want to call them.
That was made at the CSM thing, right? Like,
right, that was at the summit. Yep. Then October rolls around. We go home. Vegas happens. And we learn at Vegas that Horde is just not liking the fact that this deal was made on their behalf. Gobbins tells Sword Dragon in a very angered message, to quote, not friendly terms, is what Gobbins worded it, that they would be reciting each other, and war began. Black Legion and Horde versus GOTG. At this time, Laserhawks kills 4 Keepstars in one day, and within an hour of each other. In Cobalt Edge, they kicked out some renters. This is why I said before previously that under combat, because those 4 Keepstars were killed in one day, but there was no fighting over them, no battle. Short time later, the invasion of Branch happens. A lot of people said it was a fake fight in October because no structures were killed, no Keepstars, no.
I want to get in on here because this is relevant to news this week. So one of the things that is funny, and we commented on how unreliable this would be in the long term. What was funny about Gobbins deciding to turn Horde against Guardians of the Galaxy over the treaty, and then hire Black Legion to essentially do all the work in theory for Horde's sort of a lack of FC crew to do this branch campaign. Black Legion, as we know now, is falling apart because Elo has gone completely AFK, and that you could see sort of the preview of this in the just complete lack of initiative and effort put forth in the campaign against Guardians of the Galaxy, where Horde and Black Legion were supposed to do stuff, and then of course Black Legion deployed against the Imperium. And
well, we're getting to that one. That's a couple months
I know,
later.
but like, and now recently in the last week, we're finding out that Black Legion is losing corporations hand over fist because Elo is completely gone. So this is really the first time in the timeline that you're seeing the reboot of Black Legion, showing that nobody's actually in charge.
Yeah, I will point out though, a lot of people are going to say this in chat. Black Legion.
Elo was active last night. I was asleep last night.
Yeah, so Reddit, there was a whole lot of like fake, like, oh god, we've been enthrobbed, we're going to die. That's fake, but the corpse leaving are real. Several corpse have left. And
Elo being pretty AFK for weeks is
Dotland doesn't lie. And Elo has started to FC for Horde, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, November rolls around. Test decides that to get back at Horde for their not helping XIX during the war in the drones, as they promised, that Test feels like taking Horde's money. Test invades Perimeter, HiSec, something that no one's ever really thought about doing. Just kind of let Horde have it, because who cares? Drops their own Keepstar, and proceeds to evict Horde out of their 500 bill a month. Takes that from Horde, and then proceeds to park on Horde's doorstep in Ojanen, and starts hitting Horde and putting pressure on Horde with 900 men. That prompts Northern Coalition with Killer B AFK to try and move in to help Horde in November. Of course, as any good alliance would do, they drop their own Keepstar, because who's going to live in someone else's Keepstar with all your Titans and Supers? It's next door to a Horde Keepstar, and Horde doesn't bother to show up to defend it, and it dies. And what I mean by doesn't bother to show up, they've showed up with a few carriers and a Jackdaw fleet. I mean, they really didn't put forth the effort that you would expect from somebody getting saved. That was an interesting blunder because thanks to some spy work by a guy using AWACS, well, not spy work, AWACSing Horde is not really spying. I mean, it's just kind of...
All right, I was about to say.
Anybody can join Horde. He fleet warped a bunch of carriers to his own Hictor, which then prompted PL and NC to respond. They warped their Titans over to try and save it, which separated them from the Keepstar and got them killed. There was a few Titans that got kaboomed. We had that live here on INN, so that happened. Keepstar died. Dreads were literally gated through a Sinojam system with no like fear of losing them, and it gated 100 Dreads in and warped them to the Keepstar grid. No fucks were given that day in the face of Titans and Supers, so it died. And that was November, and then we have Killabeat here. Now, Killabeat, you were not really involved in the FC of that. I believe there was another guy, correct?
Yeah, correct. I was,
We're talking about HTech again.
Yeah,
Say
HTech
again?
5 in November, yeah.
Yeah, HTech 5. No, I was not involved in that at all. I basically, I saw all the hype pings and shit, so I basically went to the FC channel and said, hey, if you need any backup, I can help you tonight. And he basically said, okay, that's fine, you can take care of the subcaps. So I did that. I basically FC'd the Munin fleet. But I said very firmly, I said at the start, it's like, I'm not going to call any shots here. I'm literally just going to FC the subcaps, and you tell me where to go and shoot stuff, and I'll go and shoot stuff, right? And I was being told to go into the middle of like 5 enemy subcap fleets, so I did that, and I didn't really feel that good, so I extracted us again, and it was, yeah, the entire fight was very poorly organized, I think. But, you know, to give DFC that did take care of that fight at least some credit, he hadn't had a chance to see a very big fight in a while before that, so he was probably a bit rusty. He's now done plenty of fights since then on a bigger scale as well, and today was, I think, a good example of how to somewhat pull a fight off like that. So I think it's getting better. It's yeah, but HTech 5 was very bad.
Yep. And that put a lot of pressure on Horde. We have Horde is currently involved in a embattled war with Test. As of today, Test announcing that they are fully invading Geminate. We found this out just moments before the meta show, so we'll get to that in a minute. Then December happens. Not much happens in November there, just a little bit skirmishes back and forth in Geminate. And December happens, and all of a sudden, out of fucking nowhere, Initiative goes, oh, by the way, we're killing Rage, which is the nickname of the Hard Knocks Keepstar system in wormhole space, and we have 140 freighters worth of stuff to do it with, and we're going to spend a week blowing these 2 Keepstars up. So everybody grab your bags and come along. So that happens, and so that starts with all of a sudden there's 1,000 people inside Rage, and Hard Knocks going, oh fuck, what's going on here? So if we
that was so recent that
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to go into too much detail about what happened
we
in
don't need
Rage
to.
because that's just the last couple of weeks ago. But you know, I actually don't know what the follow up to that story is, like whether there was in fact a collapse and purge of Hard Knocks Fortizars elsewhere in W space,
We'll talk
or
about that, yeah.
what ended up.
We're going to get to that, because that's one of the questions we have now going forward, but we'll get to that in a minute here. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And then, right at the end of the year, as the year is closing out, 2 days after Christmas, Skill Yourself, obviously tired of working with Triumvirate. We found out a couple, last week or the week before from a Skill You guy that the leader of Triumvirate is back deployed. He's gone, so you're kind of dealing with nobody knows. Tri gets evicted end of December, lose their Keepstar, the second one they've lost.
Again.
Yeah, again. They get evicted of CJ and make the slow, arduous trek to go join NC in the north, and on their way north get caught and slaughtered.
Oh my god, that's right, this fight.
They got
10
dread bombed.
Titans down plus.
Yep, they got dread bombed on a Fortizar, and 10 Ragnaroks died and 1 Erebus.
And not just
And-
10 regular Titans, right? Those were Titans filled up with people's assets and the shit they've collected over months or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Because getting
Yeah,
dropped on a move up is always so.
I think XIX guy said in local, "This is revenge for May." when
I'm
they
sure they had much to do with it.
No, of course not. There was a snuff, and it Goon thing. I want to give a shout out to Space Fonts. They were there, Nit, of course, and then Snuffbox. It was just a nasty fight. And that rounded out the year. That was it. That was the new year. And then, of course, at the start of January, we have some people were asking about this. Before we get into our awards, we had a fight today, according to Killer B. Now, Killer B, can you tell us what was the announcement from Test and what happened?
Yeah, so Test had a Alliance meeting. I'm not sure if it was a State of the Alliance or just a regular Alliance meeting, but they did an Alliance meeting and they said that they were going to shift their deployment style from a jump clone deployment to the north to a death clone deployment to the north, which basically means that you're spending most of the time where your death clone is, because whenever you die, you get potted back there, right? And you have your jump clone somewhere else to back up, you know, like your crabs or something. So basically, ProGuard announced that there were going to be designated money-making times for Test. He said something like 3 to 6 hours a day, and they were going to basically be ready to jump clone during those hours. But the rest of the time, everybody in Test is to be is expected to be up north, and they want to focus on taking down some of the hordes off and Geminate, as well as some of the citadels. Some of the bigger citadels. And following that meeting, Test formed up, I think it was like 3 fleets. It was 2 subcap fleets, a mega fleet and an eagle fleet, as well as some carriers. And they went to shoot, 1 fleet reinforced the Horde Fort in Oigenin, which is Test staging in the north at the same time. And the other fleet started shooting the PL staging Fort Azar in O1 Tech in Geminate. And NC. PL, Horde, all formed up to shoot the part of Test that was on that PL fort, and we ended up killing them quite good towards the end when we dropped big stuff. The subcap, I think Horde got a bad warping or something, and they lost a bunch of megas at the start of the fight, and then we escalated with super carriers, and PL I think dropped some Titans as well, and then we started winning the fight. They didn't manage to reinforce the PL fort, but yeah, I guess still they got a brawl. You know, it's better to do after an Alliance meeting than nothing, I guess. Pretty much 50-50 cool. I haven't seen a battle report yet. Somebody said that in Twitch chat. Yeah, if anyone has a battle report, feel free to.
I tried to link it.
I just undeleted it.
Great
so
news! Great news! Billy is going to stop by here in just a moment and tell us all about today.
It does look pretty 50-50. That's one of the most even battle reports I've ever seen. I'll just.
That's uncanny.
Let's post it in the show chat.
Yeah, it's linked in chat here. It should be showing up for everybody. Curious. Okay.
Oh boy, I'll tell you why I'm laughing in just a second. So before Billy gets here, he may be here any moment, but until he gets here, because I don't know how long he'll be or if he'll be instant or not. The question, we move on to our next thing, and that is the awards of 2018. I spent some time this week coming up with questions of like what would we ask for an award type thing to do on a yearly basis, and we came up with a series of awards, and then who won the awards. It was a poll that was sent out to a lot of people. We had 355 people respond. Each question was ranked. We did a rank order, kind of like a voting system, where there was 5 or 6 choices. You ranked them 1 to 6 or 1 to 5. And then we took the weighted total of all that and put together who won the top. And it made really shiny graphs and stuff. I'll probably post those later in like a news thing on INN or something. I don't know.
Say this, you win the award for mining in Rorquals. Well, there's a strat up out in time.
And I guess the awards will have to wait because, hi, Billy!
Hi, Boat. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Oh, infinite loop. So tell us, how's it going? How was today, man?
How was today? Today was okay. You know, it was a solid, interesting day. Lots of fun. Lots of interesting events. You know, all the kind of good stuff that everybody loves.
What happened? Why don't you just give us your perspective on what went down?
The big fight. I mean, you know, we took a fight.
Test
went
deployment. So, is it true that Test is deployed to try to take Geminate, or what's?
Yes, that may be partly true. Basically, we're in a situation right now where we are going to do our best to, I don't want to say evict, but what we were doing before, that was kind of just a gentle love gesture to Horde. We were caressing the ball, not caressing the balls, but like we were gently caressing the thighs, like saying "How are you doing, baby?" kind of thing. And now we're looking to rough the shoulders up a little.
There.
Yeah, I don't know about get in there. That seems kind of aggressive.
How many faction forts would it cost for you to enter deployment? I guess is the next question.
I think 30 would be enough for us, to be honest. 30 is a pretty good amount of faction forts.
Gemini has 30 at least, yeah?
I don't think there's 30 left.
What sort of reaction have you seen so far from Horde? I guess the biggest question I have to frame that appropriately, who's defending them? Is it Horde, or is it just all of Horde's allies, being the adults in the room, banding together to try to defend them? Is there anybody actually in charge?
It's the full North team. It's the full Northern team. You got PL, you got NC, you've got Horde. I mean, they're all like, like 6 months ago, any one of those entities on their own probably could have handled what we're doing. But now all three of them are just barely holding the line, right? So it's definitely not what it used to be, I guess we could say. So that's an interesting point. But for the most part, Horde really, like, especially even like, maybe this is quote unquote leaks, but the night before last, or last whatever, Goblins had a chat with ProGod, and he was like very, how do I say this? He has a way of making people want to kill him. And
no, you don't say.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was pretty infuriating, I guess you could say. And because of that, we have said, okay, we will in fact kill you. And he was very mad that we were, taking his market, and he was mad that ProGod was telling people how much money the high-sec markets were making. Just in case anybody doesn't know, Horde was making approximately 900 bill a month from high-sec. That is exactly how much they were making.
Oh,
funny,
because when Goblin came to me to ask for a pilot or renter money, he was like, "Oh, we're making like 50 bill a month with that, so it's not that much money. We need more."
Oh, I don't. Come on. I don't mean to interrupt both of you, but I just want to remind everyone, since we're live on Twitch, when he says kill you, he means in-game, in a video game, shooting people with spaceships. Just to clear that up, people have been getting banned lately on Twitch for saying stuff like that. So just want to clear that up, just make that a very important thing. But continue, please.
Billy, can I put an unofficial alt in test, by the way? That would be great.
No. Oh, wait, what are you in right now? Are you still in North?
Wait, who?
Are you still in the Northern Coalition?
I'm still in NC, yeah.
And no.
For the moment.
Why would...
For the moment! You heard it, for the moment!
Well, listen, we have taken already like 2 NC corps. If you want to get on the good side here...
Wait, which one? Cinda and here, right?
Yeah,
the ones that have lost Titans, I'm pretty sure. The ones that have left
Zinda's
NC.
not much of a gain. Here has some good people, yeah, but... Whatever.
No joke, all the Titan losses from test recently have been NC, X-Corp.
Chat says this, and I want to ask, Killer B, are you saying that you just want to shoot goblins? Is that what you're getting at here? I mean, since you can't do it while you're in NC.
I'm not very inclined to help him, like that's why I'm trying to stay away from these timers as much as I can. But obviously, if Vince asked me to take care of a timer, I'm going to take care of a timer. I'm a loyal guy, but yeah, like what Willie said about Horde being goblins being infuriating sometimes is definitely true, and it's so sad because there's a lot of people in Horde that are very good, like they're very good people, and also like all the new players, all the beans that are just trying to get into PvP as early as possible. They're being basically being put under a leader that has lost like all sense of reality of like what his position in this game is and what he can or cannot do. But apparently he can do it because every time he does something like randomly resetting GOTG and going on the offensive against him, he just gets away with it because I don't know why. But yeah, like I'm done with goblins. I wish Horde all the best. I think, like I said, there's many very great guys in Horde, but I'm done with goblins. That's it.
I think it's a scenario where both PL and NCDOT have invested heavily in the idea of having a meat shield. And one of the things that was fascinating about the X-47 fights was that the Horde forces that turned up in many cases were far more harm to what
The
we call
whole, yeah.
hostile side, then they were a benefit in terms of the lag that was created by the ECM burst nonsense and the fact that they're so easily infiltrated. I think from we've talked about this before. I think that Horde being led by goblins is bad for the game. We saw this, the sort of the same argument was brought up during the battle days of Brave when Licton was in charge and things were not going very well. If you have a newbie organization that is poorly managed and you have new players coming to the game and they get into a shittily run org, right, as opposed to joining Test or joining Goonswarm or whatever, or joining Brave these days is much better. If they end up in Horde, odds are pretty good that they're going to end up quitting the game because it's such a piece of shit. So, I mean, I'm fully in support of burning the whole thing to the ground, but that's not exactly a surprise to anybody.
I mean, Killer B, let me introduce you to a man named Kendar. I mean, if you want to shoot goblins, I'm pretty sure Kendar might be able to hook you up.
We have a question here, by the way. So we've gone into Cool Kids Only mode. It is after the last 15 minutes of the show, we do this. We go subscribers only. And we have a question here from Bleezy123, which is, how do these people maintain leadership? And then when I didn't immediately answer his question, he told me to shut the fuck up and answer his question. So now I'm going to shut up the fuck up and answer the question. So the way that they maintain leadership is sort of a keys to power idea, right? I think that a guy like Gobbins will continue to maintain power as long as he is able to deliver what is of advantage to his more powerful allies. Now, what does he deliver is fleets that are biddable, that are trained to take command from other allies. Horde is kind of unique when it comes to alliances of that size. You see this in some smaller alliances or some entities that have coalition members, but most alliances really have their own FC core, their own leadership team, and even if they work with stronger allies, they still have like their own FC team. They have their own people. They have their own management. They have their own alliance leader. Gobbins is, when he refers to Horde as being kind of like a McDonald's franchise, that even extends to his leadership or lack thereof, because he is able to essentially franchise out these fleets to FCs and leaders of other alliances, and they've just been trained from day one to go follow somebody else's lead. So as long as Gobbins isn't a threat to franchising out Horde meat shield fleets, he will probably continue to be in power. If he starts trying to really go his own way or break away or somehow not provide that service to NC and PL, I'd see his hold on levers of power might change. And Villy and Killaby, feel free to jump in and disagree with me if you think that.
Well, I won't disagree with you. I'll kind of add some context, perhaps, that I don't think that's really important. Is that a big component of what being Horde has meant for the last couple of years was that you got the protection of PL and NC, and that meant that you got kind of a freebie life, I guess you could say, in terms of what you got to do in 0.0 for free. You knew you weren't going to get evicted. You knew that everything was going to be okay. You were quite okay to just do whatever, I guess you could say.
They could be giant dicks, right? Like to their allies.
Yeah.
And you'd have Daddy PL go, hey, you're fine.
Yeah, Daddy PL wasn't going to, let you get in trouble if you picked the wrong fights. But Daddy PL is no longer Daddy PL. Daddy PL is like drunk Uncle Pete PL, and he's not quite as fit as he used to be, let's say. And all of a sudden, Daddy PL isn't coming to save you anymore, right? He's just not there. So it's very much a situation where they hadn't reacted to the new reality of their life, and it's pretty obvious that they need to, or they're going to pay a pretty rough price at some point here.
Yeah. Here's a key thing. K-Color, you'll probably comment on this because you tend to do this quite frequently with Horde. And it's, in the last 24 hours, the only Horde FC to FC their own fleets has been Travis Kikira, and the only time he FCs is if it's a major, super important strat up, and he never does anything else. He'll show up once a week and do a big, huge strat up, where he kind of runs the backup fleets for some other major FC. The two major FCs in the last 24 hours were Elo Knight. He led their fleet yesterday in U.S. time zone. And then you had Rick Hoover, a name I haven't seen in months, FC the Horde fleet today. The major, strategic battleship fleet. So that was the two big FCs who have kind of ran Horde the last, 24 hours. K-Color, if you want to comment.
I was in the washroom. I felt like that was a better use of my time than talking about Horde.
It's that the Horde never runs their own fleets.
Well, I think Kayla Killer's point is valid.
Yeah, so that's the problem right now. It's like, it's very hard. I mean, just imagine if all of a sudden Vince goes, yeah, you know what, fuck you, Goblins. They wouldn't exist, right? Like, they wouldn't be able to do anything that they do right now.
Well, I think that they might be in a situation now where they're about to start not existing. Because one of the things that, if Test is being serious, and when I say Test, I mean the Legacy Coalition, is being serious about grinding into Geminate, one of the things that's the joyous bit about Fozisov is that, you know, the Defenders are the only people that can defend their own shit when it comes to dealing with endless hacking ops and defenses. So, you know, Horde is going to have to constantly be putting out fires more than they're already doing if this is a serious deployment. And that's something that you can't just delegate out to allied leadership. So I'm going to be curious, where by curious, I mean I'm going to be very eager to see if we can pitch in and assist to continue to, you know, help out.
Yeah, like, it's important to understand, like, our plan is not to come in here and, like, you know, evict Horde. Like, that's just not a realistic goal unless we're planning to move in, and we're not, right? But the goal is to make their life hell. Like, I mean, you guys already had a very successful campaign where you basically removed almost all of their ability to Oracle Mine and Geminate, and they had to go to, what, Ethereum Reach, Cobalt Edge, somewhere up there to
get their
Kavala's
been shut down,
on.
Yeah.
Kavala, that's the one, right?
Yeah, they haven't been able to mine a rat in Kavala in 2 months. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Congratulations, Boat. You win again. But so the goal is not to, like, you know, purge them from their space. It's to make their lives miserable, much like they have done to us for years, right? You know, anytime PLNNC came around. Well, here's the funny thing, actually. Test had kind of a gentleman's agreement with Horde that, you know, we would stay to their business, they would stay to our business for a long time. You know, but before the Summer War and even during the Summer War, they just decided they didn't need to worry about that one anymore because that's just how it goes. Sometimes you're like, I'm the boss, I can do whatever I want, ha ha ha, look at me. And they made that choice, and obviously now there's going to be, you know, some consequences. We stick to our word, but, you know, if you're not going to hold with the agreements we had, then obviously we're not going to worry about keeping them with you.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, where it's like the idea of autocrats behaving like autocrats, and Goblins just doesn't.
I am curious on this one because we've had sort of a similar experience throughout the Casino War and in the aftermath. Horde has been protected from consequence by PL and NCDOT working together. And I'm kind of curious to see if this time Horde is unable to dodge consequences at last. At the very least, I would be happy to see, you know, I don't think anybody wants to live in Geminate, but salting the earth, blowing up any of their platforms, and killing their keep stars would probably be kind of bad for business over there. How many keep stars are there in Geminate?
Is there 3? I thought there was 2.
1, 2. No, 2, yeah. 2 in Geminate, and I think there's 1 in Kavala. That's where I was getting the third, sorry.
They sold one to NC Dot after they failed to show up for NC Dot's own. Kind of makes you think there, right? You know?
Well, here's the thing, and I don't want to get on this topic too much longer, but Horde has a proclivity to, when they start to get pressured in any way, they just leave the region. They left Quarius, went north. They left the north, went to Geminate. Goblins has said many times that if Geminate comes under too much pressure, we'll just go to Branch. You know, who's going to stop us in Branch, you know?
Well, great, then we'll just blow up all of their shit in Geminate, and then they can move to Branch and not have any of. I'm obviously interested in this. You know, it's the end of the holidays, where it's a new year, it's 2019, and somebody who's going to want to get stuck and get their hands dirty. And conveniently, Legacy Coalition has now gone and today gotten stuck in, got their hands dirty, which. And I couldn't think of a more deserving target. So here's to the doom of Goblins and all that he knows and loves in EVE Online, a bad game.
If I could point you in a direction, there's a region called the Kavala Expanse. There's a group called NGSA who's happened to shut the ADMs all the way down to level 2. So if you you want to hack the whole region and salt the earth, I mean, you could very easily take out all their iHubs. I'm just kind of saying.
Well, the thing is, nobody wants to go to Cal Poly.
Yes, I know. Trust me.
Like, and you know they've got this deal with Hard Knocks, and the whole thing is like, it's just.
It's time to put this fucking thing down, right? Like, it's just gone on too long, and
it's a mess.
It's time that Horde finally dealt with consequences of their actions, and I'm all in favor of it.
Yeah, I think most people would be. Like, it's so weird, this whole situation. Like, I've never been in a like, I'm one of those people over the years. I put in an incredible effort into not burning bridges. And because you never know but I've never dealt with someone who's so determined, like, to fucking make people mad at him. Like, at some point yesterday, like, I don't know, it was a month or two ago, I said some random trolly comment in No Leaks, and he's like, "Oh, that's not fucking true. How dare you?" Something like that. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, like, calm down. And it's always making me mad, and just nothing I can do. Yeah, like. Jesus, what?
We're gonna get to the awards now, guys. Don't worry, the show's not over. I know people are the Cool Kids Club are like, "Where's the damn awards?" I thought this was an award show. Yes, we have them right here, right now, because I don't want to talk about goblins anymore. Fuck goblins. 2018 Meta Show Awards, and as I'd like to start at the top, we'll go with 2018 by the numbers. I'm gonna flip this around a little bit so you guys can see this. In the year 2018, 281 Titans were killed out of 878 Titans in EVE's history. So 1/4 of all Titan deaths happened in 2018. So the decade that was 2018. So out of what, 12 years that ZKill's been calculating, one whole decade has gone by. 1,153 super carriers out of 3,500 died in 2018. 3,500 Rorquals out of 9,000 Rorquals died in 2018. And over a third of all Dreadnoughts ever killed died in 2018. With
almost 18,000 out of 50,000 Dreads in the history of the game were destroyed in 2018. So 2018 just overall is just absolutely insane. So much death of heavy hardware happened in this year. Disproportionately out of all of the history of EVE. It's just,
I didn't include this on here, but I got it.
An entire decade, like.
Yes, pretty much is its own little decade, mini decade. And then the biggest kill period of any ship to come out of 2018 belongs to a crashed Moloch from the Imperium Shadow State Guy. 548 billion ISK on that lost mail.
He's watching the show today.
He forgot to
Rest
dock
in
his
peace,
faction
Ronnie
Titan,
Hugo.
unfortunately.
Who is it again?
Ronnie Hugo.
Yeah, so
he's in chat today too.
Yes, he is. So that was that one. And
losing his Moloch like a fucking badass.
The biggest subcap was lost by Skill Yourself at 235 billion for an AT ship. No, I'm not Ronnie Cray.
Ronnie Cray, not Ronnie Hugo.
Ronnie Cray. But bless the Ronnies. Okay, and now we get into the actual awards since we did the losses there. Biggest single moment in EVE voted on by the people was the X-47 armor timer. They figured that was the biggest moment in EVE. The second place was the Invasion of Rage by Initiative, so that came in second. Top alliance this year, alliances that thrived. Goons won that one by far.
I think that the voting was mostly done by members of the Imperium. So
I put it everywhere I could put it, and we had about 200. Yeah, well, yeah, but it gets a little interesting.
It's important to identify our potential biases when we're giving out our awards. That it was mostly like Theta filling out the poll.
But like the poll was done through broadcasts and through.
I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. But
Form thrived.
Let me point this one out that there really isn't many alliances that thrived in like 2018 outside of Test and Knit, Goons, Snuffbox. Like that, there really wasn't many others that really had like shining moments. Alliances that failed, there were 7 choices here. Of course, number 1 voted was CO2. Of course, on that list was FCON and MOA and others that have died.
FCON went under in 2017, not in 2018.
They were still around, yeah, but they was just, yeah, you know what I mean. And then best move op of all, out of all the choices, was the Init moving 100 freighters into Rage throughout 2018 with nobody noticing. That was a pretty big fucking deal on the list. Worst move op was XIX trying to go south. They lost 4.5 trillion-isk.
Yeah, I guess that was in terms of hardware. What was the total blood toll for the blood price for the Triumvirate move up in terms of trillions? So you're
about a little under 2 trillion. So it wasn't like it was as much.
That is nuts. Like the thing about the Legion of Death move up was because they got islanded and they ended up just losing so many Winnebagos full of crap, right?
Yes.
Death toll was a lot higher than just the super capital.
One key point was was like a 42 billion-isk Phoenix, because it had all his ships in it and all his stuff. You're talking about, in the case of Tri's moved around a lot. They were originally Tri with NC and Tri together. So Tri's been around the block a lot, but XIX, when they moved, literally took everything they've had in the same spot for 8 years and then moved it, right? So it was like they were moving a house they lived in with their generations of wealth. Most deadly region to visit in EVE this year was Delve. That was compiled through zkill.land and then the voting process. So Delve was considered the most deadly place to visit in 2018. If you went through there with like a roaming fleet or solo PvP, you just got slaughtered. Like, you didn't make it out alive.
Delve is perfectly safe. That is Imperium propaganda. You do not have to worry about board titans dropping on even a frigate in Delve. It is a great place to visit. The Imperium is terrible at EVE Online. Please come to Delve. It's safe. You'll learn things about PvP. It's worth your time.
Ask Antonia, he knows. And then the most passive region, this one surprised me, was voted Outer Ring. And then when we did the numbers check, Outer Ring won, and of course the choices on that were several regions known to contain lots and lots of empty. So Outer Ring, which is located just north of Fountain, nobody seems to ever go there.
Because there's nothing to value there at all.
Well, no, I mean, it's interesting because that's the place you get blueprints and other things that are used for Oracle mining and ore stuff. So you have to go there in some way. Just, when
some random person has to go there and make a blueprint run with a Cove Ops once a year.
Yeah, and then worst Dread Bomb of the year belongs to PL. PL made this list 3 times, but their worst one was when they dropped 300 dreads, or lost 300 dreads to test. The reason this was a big deal is most of them were T2 fit. So it was a very expensive loss. Dreadnoughts, we know from the year, they died a lot. But these were interesting because they were expensive.
It was Billy's moment in the sun with the Minakawas.
Right.
We talked about that last show. It was an excellent fight and was, again, one of those first times where you saw a supposed god.
Yeah, so we best Dread Bomb actually was a tie. They were within 1 point of each other on the calculation. And that was the ROIR Gruen Dread Bomb versus GOTG. We dread bombed them and killed 5 Titans and a bunch of super carriers. That was where the meme, the fastest Vanquisher in the North, comes from, because he literally siloed out as the silos went up and got away. And then it tied with the test dread bomb live on the Meta Show, where Villy and ProGod were here on the Meta Show. ProGod PM me and goes, "Watch this." Killer B just minutes earlier had said, "Look, I'll be right back. I got to go deal with this op." Muted up, and then ProGod goes, "Lol, we just dropped them with Titans and Supers and Dreads. Lol." And that was a very hilarious moment. So that actually tied. Best turncoat moment. And this is, again, something where somebody went and bucked the meta and changed things up. And that was Horde on GOTG not accepting the peace deals, where Goblins kind of sort to go fuck himself and turned on them right after that.
That was dumb, but awesome.
And that leads us to Biggest Mistake. And the winner of Biggest Mistake is actually a tie. And that's PL dropping at range on the UALX Keepstar when they could have dropped at 0. Because it was just an anchoring, not onlining Keepstar. And the Pandemic Horde rejecting GOTG peace and preferring to fight everybody instead of 6 months of farming. Which Aerith has said is the dumbest thing they could have ever done. Because as we pointed out the show 20 minutes ago, that peace tree doesn't end until March. So they could be making all this money and nobody would be bothering them. And then as we go on into the new year, as the new year starts today on the Meta Show, what to watch in 2019? There were 7 categories here, and the top choice was: will PL survive the year? Will there
That'll
be a
be
PL?
fun.
So,
Well, there might be APL, but are they going to be the sick man of Europe, as it
Right.
were, or are they going to have some sort of restoration? We will wait and see. I want to,
Yes.
speaking of waiting and seeing, I want to thank everybody for coming today, and thank you to our subscribers for participating in Cool Kids Only mode, which lasted a little bit longer than usual because we ran slightly over. I want to thank
our
our
cool kids.
we do. I want to thank K-Color, Killer B, and Villy for joining us as guests. And hey, look, Eve is heating up. We had some big-ass fights today, and it looks like we have a Geminate Purge Horde campaign to look forward to. So kind of hotting up. Gotta love it.
As always, Killer Bee is the best guest who is not Imperium. There's been a lot of talk on Reddit lately about how Goon shows don't ever have anyone that's not Imperium on, and Killer Bee seems to be the most best regular guest of all.
That's
Yeah,
just not
I'm
true,
here all
so.
the time.
I know it's not true, but it's just really funny to see. So yeah, thanks guys, and we'll see you next week. So bye everybody.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what